I updated kind of venue status, which, again, they're making progress. They're moving toward their goal. There doesn't seem to be anything insurmountable in getting to completion. I talked a little bit about ice status and dimensions and some of the things we dealt with last week, and we're still dealing with to a certain extent. Obviously, the ice dimensions are going to be what they are. There's nothing they can do about that. But there are other things associated with that, which we have to clarify with the IIHF. And then I talked a little bit about the House of Hockey, which is kind of the hospitality venue that the IIHF has traditionally organized, and it appears this year they're not going to organize. So we talked about what that meant to the people who are going to be attending.
Do you know how it happened that the dimensions weren't the ones you guys use?
Good question. It happened. I think the IIHF was under the impression they had a different interpretation of what NHL ice meant than maybe we would have. And, you know, even at the site visits, I'm not sure it was anything that was perceptible to anybody, right? It's not like people bring tape measures there. So for whatever reason, it came back the way it came back, but it's a structural issue. It would be impossible to correct. Having said that, I think both we and the Players Association have made the IIHF very aware that when we participate in the Olympics in 2030, we expect it to be NHL ice surface.
How long ago were you guys aware of that? Doug Armstrong, multiple months ago, was quoted suggesting that it's going to be a shorter rink than you would see in the NHL.
Yeah, I didn't read those comments from Doug. Nobody raised it with me. Obviously, I think the Players Association has canvassed the players, and apparently they did not believe it to be a big issue, a health and safety issue, or a competitive issue. So I would have to be honest and say the first time I learned of it was last week.
What is the specific concerns about the ice condition? And at this point, what is the NHL's role in helping the organizers with the arena or the ice?
Well, obviously, and Ron Hainsey said it this weekend, I mean, we need to make sure the ice is of sufficient quality that it doesn't put our players at risk playing on it, and that's something that we're going to have to monitor. We have offered, and they're utilizing, our ice experts and technicians and outside providers. We're basically moving everybody there to try to help get this done in a way that's acceptable for NHL athletes. And as I said, I'm cautiously optimistic that's all going to be fruitful.
Is that new in the last couple days?
No, not really. I think we've always made them aware that we're there to help. And, you know, as we get closer to the game, we'll kind of assess the situation of whether they have it, kind of the sufficient manpower, resources, expertise to do it the way it needs to be done. And we're willing to chip in and help to the extent we need to.
Has that been done at previous Olympics?
Yes.
Yeah. Has Dan, it's been Dan Craig, right? And
Dan Craig.
Did he go specific early and like's happening now, or is it different now?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I think that we've followed the same process of every Olympics we've gone to. But, yeah, we've played a meaningful role in assisting on the ice facilities in each of the Olympics we've gone to.
In regards to the ice, too, the shore ice, it's the same ice that was in the Global Series?
Correct. Yep.
Was there any feedback from players on that?
Nope. No negative feedback. Yeah.
Right.
So because the thing I'm wondering about is if the ice surface isn't done to the legal player specifications, what happens? Is there a date that you have to let them know by that this is going to be a problem or anything like that?
No, there's no specific date in our agreement. If the ice is unplayable, the ice is unplayable. And to your point, Elliot, I don't want to be flip about it. Obviously, we probably will know that in advance of the official start of the games. What you do at that point becomes a different issue.
Bill, the league has been able to stage events using temporary ice facilities, for one-off events like the Winter Classic and things like that. When it comes to these facilities in Milan, how much of that do you think is a factor in the ice making process that these aren't really permanent ice plant facilities?
I get no well, that's a fair question. I don't get any indication that any cause for concern is based on it being temporary instead of permanent. I forgot what else I was going to say. I was going to add one other point.
Power generation to get to all those things. Like there's
Dehumidification. Those are the things they've been very receptive to. Our guys have made a lot of recommendations. You know, part of what distinguishes, and this was going to be my point, this type of tournament from just a regular game is you're playing 3 games a day on the same sheet of ice for a prolonged period of time. That's tough on the ice. And that's, you know, the ice has to be a little more resilient than it might otherwise have to be.
If for any reason there's no tournament, and we know already the schedule, can you reschedule some games? Starts this season earlier, at the end of February, but bring in a couple of games before, what the schedule is saying right now?
Well, I can't tell you exactly what we do. What I'd say is I think, you know, in emergency type situations like that in the past, I think we've responded appropriately, came up with good solutions, and I have no doubt that we'll be able to come up with good solutions if we're faced with that.
I know they've said there's no plan B, but is there any contingency for you guys to stage this tournament elsewhere?
No. I mean, it kind of is what it is. Having said that, you if you're faced with that being the reality, then you have to think about what you do next.
We'll do 2 more. Is touring ruled out, just being 90 minutes down the road, having used that?
No, apparently it's not an option. I can't tell you exactly why it's not an option, but it's not. Maybe because they've taken the ice making plant out of the building.
it's not an arena anymore.
Well, it's not even an arena anymore. So that would be one reason. We can't play there. So no, I don't think that's the plan B. But again, you know, we'll deal with it if we have to. Look, again, I don't want to be pessimistic here because I actually do think most of my information is more on the positive side than the negative side. We still have, you know, the buildings are supposed to be done by February 2nd, so we have some time. And, you know, the latest reports I was getting was at the table at the end of the meeting were positive.
Bill, 2 years ago at the Board of Governors, you and Gary both talked about concerns already then. You know, like, why do you think you weren't able to light a fire under them, or, you know?
Well, obviously it didn't work. You know, I can't really speak to that because I don't really know why.
Bill, who makes the final determination? Is there a committee? Is it Dan Craig? Is there a committee? Like, who makes the final call? We can play here or we can't?
Well, technically it's the IIHF, but that does not necessarily mean we don't have a significant voice in that. You know, obviously if the players feel like the ice is unsafe, we're not going to play. It's as simple as that. So, and whatever flows from that. I'm not really all that concerned about it.
Just to back up the timeline, you mentioned February 2nd. When would you begin to have access to test the ice and things like that?
I mean, we'll have ongoing access to test the ice like from now until then.
Based on what you heard, what gives you optimism?
Again, I'm getting positive reports about what they're going to do, what the next plan is, what the next day is, what it looks like, how the parties are reacting, et cetera, et cetera. So today was a fairly positive day.
On that note, we'll get to do this all.